So I believe that was it. The last speaker would be Mayor Tory.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to all who participated in what I think has been a very thoughtful debate today. I find it, though, it's so disconcerting when some of it is presented on the basis that this represents, this exercise we're going through, sort of a doomsday scenario. And it isn't. And it isn't meant to be. It needn't be. It won't be. And I think I have some examples that will illustrate what I'm trying to talk about in the context of what it is we're trying to do here. And I think, interestingly enough, I listened with interest to the comments of Councillor Fillion, who talked about spending better and changing the culture. And that's really all we're trying to do. And here's example number one. The Auditor General's report on cleaning that is in front of us at this meeting. Now, in that case, it is being critical of the practices of our management to some extent, but mostly done by private sector people. So in that sense, it's not a kind of public sector criticism thing. It is, but what it does say is that we can save $1 million on an expenditure of $30 million by doing what? By stopping overpaying by 35%. That doesn't sound too harmful. By perhaps taking the regular cleaning service versus enhanced. That's one we should discuss. By paying only for cleaning the square footage that we actually have, as opposed to more that seems to have somehow found its way into what they're charging for. By implementing the efficiency software everywhere instead of 39 out of 265 sites. Why would you pay $500,000 for so-called efficiency software, assuming somebody did the pros and cons on buying it at all, and then implement it on 39 out of 265 of your sites? So there's two choices here. You either implement it across the board, or more or less across the board, or cancel the software, both of which allow you to save money by either using the software properly or not using it at all. And so what does it amount to when you save $1 million, which the Auditor General, that's her number, not mine, on a budget, an expenditure of $30 million? It amounts to 3%. And nobody is affected negatively at all. Let's go to the next example, the Police Transformation Task Force interim report. And they suggest there that if we use technology to replace some of the highly trained police officers, if we use alternative service delivery, because that's what it is when we say we're going to have traffic wardens or we're going to have civilian investigators go out and take a report on a stolen car instead of a police officer, or we're going to have online crime reporting, which actually allows the citizens to do that. And what do they say that we could save by doing those things, which I would argue will lead to better policing in the city and to better deployment of police officers while still allowing us perhaps to reduce the size of the police service? What does it save? $25 million. What does that represent on a budget of $1 billion? 2.5%. And then we get to the paving report, which is also in our binder for this meeting. And it talks about, I didn't really look up the percentage, but it talks about just saving $10.6 million, admittedly in capital, by simply doing better the tendering process and not allowing these unbalanced bids. And so here's the good news and the bad news. I'll start with the bad news. It's usually better to do that. The bad news is we can't possibly have the Auditor General look into every department to find stuff like that simply says we can do things better and save money and achieve the same results or better. But here's the good news. We have a really professional, excellent management team at the city, and that's their job, is to go away and make their best efforts to find out if we can deliver the same or better service for less money. That's their job. That's the job of management everywhere. That's what people in big organizations are paid to do. They're paid a handsome salary, and I don't begrudge them that, but this is one of the most important elements of their job, is to find ways with scarce public resources to do more or to do the same for less. And that is all we're asking here. And by the way, we're not adopting the recommendations today, and we're not saying no matter what they come back with, it's the law, so that when Councillor Fletcher says we're putting a great city in jeopardy, I say that's just not true. What we're doing is asking people to do what every family does every year, what every small business does every year, what every big business does, what every nonprofit organization does, and what every government should do, which is to take a really hard look, in this case with a target, at every bit of money you spend, and do the work the Auditor General did. So when she tells us we can save $1 million on a $50 million or $30 million cleaning contract, 3%, can we please go and do the same exercise and see if the same possibility exists for all the other contracts and all the other agencies in the city government? I cannot and I will not be here and just accept the fact it should be business as usual, everything's fine, there's nothing to be found to do better anywhere, there are no savings left. I've heard it here, I don't believe it, it's not true, it can't be true. I will support Councillor Thompson's motion as one which I think is reasonable, to make sure you look when recommendations come back at the social and economic impact. But I think the notion that we could proceed with this way of going about examining our spending just makes sense. It's the least we can do to be able to look taxpayers in the eye and say we're doing our job, let alone asking the management to do their job and everybody else to make sure these resources are properly spent. So, of course, I'll be supporting this item, Madam Speaker. Thank you.